So, welcome back to Favorite Friday. For the 11th day of murder, I don't have a specific location for this one, this family. They are going all over the United States. And also, just a heads up, I normally give what's it called? The date of birth and like an upbringing on our killers. However, pretty much most of I don't think I don't have a date of birth on literally any of our killers. But I do have a date of birth on our victims, at least the confirmed victims. So, there's that. Sources down below as always. I think I have like 9 for this case. And so if anybody remembers this case or you know anybody that was involved, whether it be the killers or the victims, definitely always let me know down below. And so with that being said, I'm gonna quit my rambling and let's go and get started. For the research that I've done, it seems like the patriarch or the leader of the serial killer group, there's not just one person, it's like apparently like a whole ass family for this. Okay? Apparently there is a leader by the name of Sherman McCreary. Doesn't say when he's born, but he goes into the Navy, and he eventually gets kicked out of the Navy for being a registered psychopath. It doesn't say when, but he eventually marries a woman named Carolyn. Together they have a daughter named Ginger, who's apparently she's important. And then they have a son named Daniel, and then they have a daughter named Tam. So they got 3 kids together. And then apparently Sherman had went to jail for something, and he was waiting in a prison camp waiting for an evaluation in California when he eventually escaped. So then in 1971, there's a man by the name of Carl Taylor. So Carl, and apparently he was also named as like Raymond. So I don't know if Raymond was like a middle name or just like an alias name. And so apparently he married the daughter of Ginger. This was within like a week of knowing her. And apparently Carl was born like April 7th, 1938. So we have a date of birth on him. And then it said when he was 16, he was accused of marrying his sister-in-law, which apparently that's illegal. Apparently he was over doing like multiple marriages at once. And this is like the 4th marriage that was publicly known. And apparently he has like 4 kids that are known of, but are never like publicly listed. So by 1971, Sherman and Carl apparently they're like free men after they did some time in jail for what? No idea. But apparently they decide to go to Salt Lake City, Utah, and they decide we're going to rob a little bakery there for whatever money they have. So then they're waiting there, and they're like the last customers of the night. And so obviously anybody who's worked in like a restaurant, you know that after a certain time the lobby's supposed to close and the customer's supposed to be leaving. But they're waiting there in the lobby because obviously they plan on robbing this place. They're sitting there with food, so they technically are customers, so they're not like loitering. I think yeah, that's the right word, loitering. So they're not loitering, so you can't technically kick them out because they have coffee from what it said. And apparently they were making like inappropriate comments about the female workers that were there, making them uncomfortable. And one of those workers, apparently she was like by herself, and she was 17-year-old Sherry Martin, and apparently she was born September 2nd, 1953. So as you can imagine, they wait a little bit after Sherry is alone. So there's just Sherry and like these 2 men. And the sad thing is there's actually a customer that was saying like, should I wait with you? And apparently Sherry had said to this customer that like, I can handle it. They should be leaving pretty soon. Little does she know they would wind up living with her. It is said that unfortunately she was repeatedly raped after they took her, and that they shot her 7 to 8 times while she was naked, of course, and then they redressed her after it was believed she was dead, because again, they shot her 7 to 8 times. They wrapped her in a blanket and they dumped her body like a Nevada desert. Didn't say what desert, just said a desert somewhere in Nevada, because they're in Utah. And this is believed to be the first known murder committed by this family. 3 days later, it is said that they go to another bakery shop in Denver, Colorado, and then they abduct Leora Looney, who I don't have a date of birth on her, but it is confirmed that she had been raped and murdered by the family. So that's victim number 2 that we know of. On September 28th, they go all the way from Denver to Texas, and apparently in Lubbock, Texas, and they decide to kidnap another woman by the name of Elizabeth Steffens, who apparently was I think 28 according to sources. And so she was born on August 2nd, 1945, and was said to have been one of 5 kids. It was often said that she was very much of a lookalike to the actress Elizabeth Taylor. And she apparently often did her makeup like her, because she was, I guess that was pretty flattering, because Elizabeth Taylor was an attractive actress. So she gets married when she's 17. They have a daughter named Tonette. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they get divorced. She gets remarried, but apparently that marriage doesn't last long either. She is introduced to her 3rd husband, Vaughn Perryman, by a coworker. So apparently they wind up having Bobby in 1969, and then their daughter Regina sometime in July of 1971. So Elizabeth was a mother to 2 kids and a wife. And so it's said that around 9:20 p.m., Elizabeth called the cab service that her husband Van was working at to pick her up because she was on their shift. And apparently she was working as a waitress at this restaurant because she was saving up to attend Texas Tech University, because like, obviously you don't go to college, get a better life for your kids, as most parents were doing back then. So then her husband would pull up. This is after they pretty much abducted her, obviously. And there's like $82.25 missing from the register. So then, of course, with his wife missing and also money missing, it looks like a robbery that was gone wrong that resulted in an abduction, which was believed to be exactly what happened. So then Van reports his wife, Elizabeth, missing, as one does. So then, of course, her body is sadly found in Amarillo, Texas on December 19th. Her brother has to drive to Amarillo with her dental records to confirm that this is even her. That's how bad it is, because you got to use dental records to even confirm it's you. And apparently 2 of her siblings would later come out and say that they literally saw the police with a stick, and they saw the police put Elizabeth's head on a stick on TV. But this is alleged, and I don't know if they were together or they saw this separately. It just said that 2 of her siblings. So then less than a month later, apparently we don't have the exact day, but they proceed to kidnap 24-year-old Forrest Covey and his wife, 19-year-old Jenna. And apparently they were like childhood friends. And then Covey apparently was born November 29th, 1948, and Jenna was born on May 23rd, 1952. And so their bodies were found, and it said that each one of them had been shot at least 6 times. So their bodies were found in an abandoned barn, apparently somewhere in East Dallas, so we're still in Texas right now, on October 24th. So by this point, police obviously realized, okay, these are all the same guns. This is obviously a serial killer. All these murders are connected. So then on October 20th, 1971, 6-year-old Susan Darlene Shaw, who apparently was born on May 20th, 1955, she's abducted from a donut shop in Mesquite, Texas. And apparently her body is found 4 days later in Lake Ray Hubbard, which apparently is like north of Dallas. So we're still in Texas. And of course, she had been shot also at least 6 times with the same gun. So that's another confirmed victim. And so, this is what gets kind of weird. They stopped going to like donut shops and bakeries for a little bit. And I guess they decided to rob this couple that were some hairstylists named Bobby Turner and Patricia Marr. And so they go missing on November 30th. This is still 1971, by the way. And their daughter, so I guess these 2 are like married, or at least had a child together. So Bobby was born in 1933, and then Patricia was been born in like May of 1949. They have a daughter. Daughter name is Valerie. Valerie is like 6 years old. She's also missing. Bobby and Patricia's bodies are found 40 miles away from where they disappeared at, and then Valerie's body wouldn't be found until like June of 1972, so like the next year. So she obviously been decomposed. So in February of 1972, so we're now in 1972 now, so this is like we don't went to the next year with this shit. All the way up in Washington, the state, Cynthia Ann Glass is found dead, and apparently that's another confirmed victim. And then she was born sometime like July 3rd, 1946. And so, these 2 murders I'm about to mention, they are not confirmed, but police highly believe that they were involved in these murders because, like, you're going all over the country, so it wouldn't be too far a stretch to believe that they may have done this too. And so apparently in Kansas City, Missouri, in a bar on March 2nd, 1972, while the family's still doing their little killing spree, there was a janitor by the name of Jake Green, who was 69, and apparently there was a barmaid who was named Mabel, who was 68. They both go missing. On that day. I did not see if their bodies were ever found. So I guess that's why police can't confirm like whether or not that's their actual victims, because there's no body. And so I'm about to list 4 more murders that the family is believed to be involved in, but again, not confirmed, because I guess there wasn't enough evidence, or I guess there's no body, so we can't like confirm whether or not who did it, because there's no body. So you have Barbara Mormon, who apparently was 22, and she was kidnapped from a grocery store in Irving, Texas. And in these other 3, you only have their name and their age. We don't know where they are believed to be abducted from. So I'm just going to give their names and their age, because that's like all we have on them. Bobby Joe Sanders, 26. Joanna Leathenberry, 18. And Bobby Jane English, also 18. And so in June of 1973, it is said that the family's downfall finally came, because apparently they were trying to rob a bakery in Santa Barbara, California. Like I said, they were all over the country with this, okay? I told you the beginning. They were trying to rob the bakery apparently for like $1,850, essentially. And apparently there was a cop there. Didn't say whether he was on duty or off duty, but there was a cop. So obviously he has his gun named Dennis Hiddle. He is shot, but later did survive. They stole the cop car. The car was found at a grocery store, and apparently he proceeded to carjack another car as to how he was able to get away. And so at this point, obviously, police do eventually catch them, and they catch everybody. So by him, I mean Sherman, Carl, Ginger, Daniel, went by Danny, but obviously Daniel and Danny is the same person. So Sherman and Carl, they get sentenced to 5 years to life for robbery and attempted murder. I want to believe they took a plea deal as to how they were able to get off that light, because like I said, I believe these two are literally like the ringleaders of this whole family. Ginger and Daniel apparently were charged with harboring fugitives. So I guess said fugitives being Sherman and Carl. Ginger was sent back to Colorado to deal with charges because apparently she was out here doing bad checks. And then, because you gotta get her on something to like prove that she at least was involved somehow. And apparently it said that she gave birth to a child while in Colorado. So then Daniel, he gets extradited back to Texas to face charges there. Ginger is, she testifies against her mother, Carolyn, pretty much throwing her under the bus for like a lot of shit. And apparently in exchange for this, she's offered immunity for everything. Apparently she got immunity for that, but obviously now you gotta go to another trial in a whole other state, because like I said, these are multiple murders in like different states. So we're going by state, and in Colorado, her and Carolyn only got sentenced to a few years. Because it's believed that they were involved, but not that much. So remember when I said Elizabeth Perryman, they abducted her? Yeah, Ginger would pretty much say, allegedly, like a videotape confession, that Elizabeth actually welcomed the kidnapping and was like basically consenting to being abducted. And apparently her own kids saw that, like years later. So I can only imagine how they feel. So Sherman and Carl, they get separate trials only because I think like one of them wanted a separate trial and probably won that appeal. And so at Sherman's trial, he is throwing Carl under the bus for everything. So as you can imagine, due to their heavy involvement, they obviously both receive life sentences. And Daniel, the son, he also receives life. Okay? Just in case anybody was wondering about him. In 1979, a book about the murders came out, and apparently Elizabeth's husband himself, like Van, the one that she was married to, when she died, he basically was like, hey, can y'all investigate Elizabeth's case? Because I think these people are the ones that killed my wife. Because apparently at the time, Elizabeth's case was not deemed solved. So I guess now it's pretty much confirmed that Elizabeth was killed by this family. And so crazy thing about this, Sherman apparently actually committed suicide by hanging himself with an extension cord in 1988. And apparently he was actually eligible for parole in 1997. Daniel, the son, apparently he died on like May 26th, 2007. And apparently that's only confirmed because it said that he was buried like in a prison grave, which would make sense because he was in prison at the time he died. So now that we are in the age of the internet, Regina, who apparently is still alive, remember she's Elizabeth's daughter, she reaches out to see if anybody knows any information about the case, because even though this is a serial killer family, apparently it's not as well known. Because remember, this was going on in the 70s, and there was other higher profile cases going on, some of which I'm not even going to name because we already know. I could already think of like 3 of them off the top of my head. And so she was going to see if anybody knew the victims or like the family themselves. And most of the people that replied did in fact apparently knew the family personally, or they were related to one of the victims that they are confirmed to have killed. And one of the women that replied apparently was Tammy. Tammy apparently was 10 during all this. So if you're wondering like why the hell she didn't get charged, apparently she was still a whole ass child. And obviously, for what it seemed like, it said she was adopted. So she was like, yeah. And then Regina, she was like, yeah, I hope that your family has nightmares nightly, like every single night, because of what they did to my mother. And apparently not the entire family, just like Sherman and Daniel and all them, even though Sherman and Daniel are dead. Like the ones that were involved in her mother's murder, I hope they have nightmares daily, which understandable. And apparently Tammy, or it's the woman that's claiming to be Tammy, she never responded after that. So in August of 2015, apparently Investigative Discovery, which is the name of the TV channel, they did an episode. Okay, so there was a show called Evil Ken, and apparently they did an episode based off the murders, and apparently Tammy was interviewed. So that's the only reason I'm really mentioning it, is because like we saw Tammy on the thing. Okay. And so, another thing that's like really sad about this case is that apparently, so Regina would eventually have a son named Nathan, and apparently Nathan allegedly went on a forum basically saying he was scared that he was going to die young because he was currently the same age that Elizabeth was when she died. So in March of 2017, apparently there was a woman who went on a forum. Again, I don't know, like, if it's like Reddit, 4chan, or whatever the hell the name of these forums are. It just keeps saying a forum. There was a woman saying that she just found out who killed her aunt and uncle, and apparently it was the family that did it, and apparently it's pretty much affected like her whole family. So like her kids, and her father. And so apparently in that same month, there will be a man by the name of Jerry Nations who came out and said he corrected a claim that Ginger had apparently died. He said, yeah, so Ginger's not dead. She's actually still alive. And how I know that Ginger's still alive? Because she is my mother. Ginger had offspring too. And he said, yeah, so me and my brother Glenn, obviously after the murders, we were adopted by the Nations family. Hence why we have the last name Nations. Because they were like, so we wouldn't be associated with our birth family. Understandably, after what they did. And so, apparently Jerry's story is that he was first arrested when he was 20 for apparently giving alcohol to somebody that was underage, so not of the legal drinking age. Apparently, he was arrested again at 22 for assaulting a cop, and he apparently found out he was adopted eventually, and he goes and requests his adoption records from the state of Texas in 1995. He gets them a year later, and that's when he finds out who the real family is. So that's how he's able to know, like, my family is the family that, yeah. So apparently, while the family is on this killing spree, he would recall a severed human hand, which I feel like that's pretty memorable, because, like, they were literal children when this happened. And apparently there was another experience where he was counting the stitching in the front seat of a car, while a woman apparently was in the back seat screaming, and presumably she's obviously getting murdered. Now, who the severed hand belongs to, we don't know. There's probably another victim that we still don't even know about. And with half the crew being dead, and the other half not speaking about what they did, because they already served their time, it's highly unlikely we'll even get who that severed hand even belonged to, if there even was a severed hand in the first place. And so then Jerry decides, like, hey, reaches out to Tammy and Ginger, like, hey, we're your family, we found out who you are, can we meet up? And apparently they agree to meet up. They go to a motel, and apparently the motel is not far from where the family had killed Leora Looney, and so Ginger had refused to talk about it. And so I guess there was like, he wanted to talk about it because, again, this is birth family, so he wanted to know, like, why the things happened, and they just didn't want to talk about it. And it said that they never met up ever again after that. And so Jerry apparently developed a hobby of bull riding, which, you know, nothing wrong with that. Unfortunately, he would start using meth, and apparently he slept less to, like, avoid nightmares, because apparently he was there with the family when all the murder spree was going on. And apparently in April 2010, he got arrested for manufacturing meth and spent 5 years in jail for it. And apparently he would move, after getting released, he moved to East Texas to basically move on with his life. So basically just like to start a new life after going to jail for the meth. Jerry and Regina apparently would talk online at first in 2017. And apparently it's believed that they found out they had multiple things in common, including being married multiple times, and the fact that Regina's brother Bobby had apparently went to jail for meth at one point. So Regina asked Jerry, like, do you remember, like, seeing my mom's face, like, before she was murdered? Do you know for a fact they killed my mom? Because, like, the police say they did, but, like, we don't know for sure. Like, I just want to know, like, because you were there. Like, I'm trying to ask you. And, of course, Jerry, being a child at the time, he don't remember what happened. Okay, because it doesn't say how old he was when the murders happened. Like, he was either too young, or it was so traumatic that he's blocked that shit out. And so Regina apparently even went to go talk to Ginger, but understandably Jerry was hesitant because he was like, I don't know how Ginger's going to react to you, if Ginger's even going to speak at all, because I went to go talk to her and she won't even tell me what happened, and I'm literally her own son, so. And instead of the two would go on to be Facebook friends, and apparently did keep in contact with each other for a bit. I don't know. Again, this was in 2017, and we're now in 2024, so I don't know if, like, they did keep in contact with each other, like, to this day, but, like, yeah. So anyway, that's all I have for the donut shop murders. Like I said, if anybody knows anybody that was involved in the case, whether it be a victim or one of the killers, definitely let me know. If anybody knows what Ginger or Carolyn are doing, because apparently they're still alive somehow, definitely let me know. And so with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.